Hello there, and welcome to the I Never Knew podcast, also known as Inc. This show dives into the life experiences of people who have been through it all and have come through the other side stronger, better, and triumphant. Each story is raw, authentic, and, at times, heartbreaking. One thing joins it all together: the fact that the stories can help the listener learn and grow. Hosted by life coach Maureen, she sits down each episode with a new guest who will empower the listener to set out on their self-discovery journey and start to heal. Now you'll be joined by Maureen and her special guest. Please enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of I Never Knew But My Dog Did podcast. I am Maureen Scanlon, or Life Coach Maureen, as most of you know me. I am so happy to have all of you here today. And as I always say, I have the best guests in the podcasting community. Today's no exception. I'm so excited. He says he's always high energy, so I know it's going to be a fun day. I did tell him we're going to be having coffee with his big sister, me. So it's going to be fun today. And I can't wait for all of you to meet him. And I'm going to tell you what he does, but then we're going to find out who he is, because we're not what we do. We are who we are inside. So here we go. I am today with Adam Vibe Gunton, and he is the best-selling author of From Chains to Saved. Love that name. Founder of Recovered on Purpose and host of the Recovered on Purpose show. After overcoming homelessness and drug addiction on November 6th, 2017, he set out on a mission to help as many addicts find recovery as possible. On November 6, 2019, he published his book and has now sold over 5,000 copies. And he has given away the same amount, which I know as an author myself, it's what we do. His company, Recovered on Purpose, equips addicts in recovery to share their stories powerfully with the world, to reach addicts suffering with a message of hope that ultimately helps them find recovery. With his Facebook page reaching over 40 million people per month organically, his videos have gone viral, and he has many students now sharing their stories publicly. Recovered on Purpose has helped, drum roll, over 1,000 addicts find recovery. Oh my gosh, without further ado, my friend, my light worker, my helper, my teacher, welcome, Adam. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, Maureen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Haven't had coffee with my sister in a while, and it's the afternoon, but I just so happen to have coffee in front of me anyway. So let's go.
I find that most of us high energy people do coffee all day long. It's almost a reverse effect. I'm ADHD, so it's like, for me, it brings me calmer where most people need an upper. But oh my gosh, your bio is extremely impressive. Of course, here on I Never Knew, the most important thing is, what's our knee story? And that knee story is, where was the moment where you are on your knees saying, this isn't working for me. Something's not going right in my life. And these powerful stories are the things that really move us into our purpose. So tell us your story, your background, your knee story.
Man, I appreciate the question. And the interesting thing about the life of an addict struggling is that we have many knee stories, many knee stories. And the issue that I found is that a lot of times when we have that knee event where we drop down to our knees, the help isn't there. We might not have the resources. We might not have the community around us. And if we don't know to reach out to something higher when we drop to our knees, oftentimes we aren't able to find the recovery that we need. And my journey started, I went to Columbine High School. I grew up in Littleton, Colorado, and I was like a golden boy, the All-American kid. I was the home run derby hitter of the Little League World Series when I was 13 years old. I was the state champion wrestler in Little League. I was the captain of our football team at Columbine High School when we won state my senior year, and the captain of the wrestling team. But behind this whole face that I was putting out, I was actually introduced to cocaine at the age of 12. And behind the scenes this whole time, I was getting deeper and deeper and deeper into drug use without the knowledge of where it was actually taking me. I didn't know that it wasn't normal to be doing cocaine and ecstasy at 15, 16 years old and then going on the football field and leading a team. I didn't know where it was heading in my life. And then on September 28th, 2008, I had been out drinking and partying like most nights my freshman year of college when I woke up to my phone ringing and vibrating down by my leg. And I swam through the soft sheets to find my hard phone with the bright screen that read 4:47 a.m. and my best friend Chucker was calling me. And I remember having the conscious choice that I could either answer the phone like I always do with, "Hey, what's up, Chuck?" Or I could answer the way I was feeling with, "Hello." And in my still drunken state, I chose the latter, to which a soft voice replied, "Hey, what's up? Why are you calling me this late? I was just calling to say hi. Don't call me this late again." And I hung up on him. And he shot himself. And for nearly a decade after that phone call, I was unable to share that experience with anyone as I bottled down deeper and deeper and deeper with drugs and alcohol. That was the moment I can look at in my life where I stopped using drugs and alcohol to party and have fun. And I began using them to cope with life, to cope with the way that I felt, to cope with the events that came at me, and even to cope with being able to have fun. I now was relying on substances to fuel my life, and it was the only coping mechanism that I knew growing up. And this led me to finding myself homeless, 86 from a homeless shelter, so I was super homeless, and I was unable to stop using the very drugs that were taking everything from me. And there was even a time in my addiction, exactly 2 years before I found recovery, on November 6, 2015, I was found unresponsive without breath or pulse by the police from an overdose behind the wheel of a car. And that body cam footage, because I ended up getting the body cam footage, has been seen by millions of people now. And what I've found is these knee events and these knee stories and experiences that we have really become our strength to help other people. As long as when we fall to our knees and we find the solution to get us from that place, that solution and the story before that event become how we help and add value to the world. And on November 6, 2017, after some spiritual experiences and then working the 12 steps incredibly hard, I found recovery. And when I found that freedom, right, when I actually experienced that, the conscious shift where I was no longer desiring drugs and alcohol, for me, it happened on day 26. And when I actually felt that thing that I didn't think was ever going to be possible for me, I knew in that moment that I was here to help others find that freedom. Because so many people are locked in it and don't think that it's possible. And now I've learned that it is. So we have to let as many people out there suffering know that it is and show them the way to do it.
I love it. I love all of that. It's like, I just picture in my mind this vision of, we're on the other side of this mountain and the other people are on the other side, not having that courage and having that fear of how do I get over that mountain? And we're on the other side of the mountain going, come on, I promise you it's okay. But all they can see is the mountain. And I love that you said that, because any addiction at all is a gradual thing. We don't one day wake up an addict and then one day say I'm not going to be an addict anymore. This is a progressive thing. What's interesting to me about your story was how there wasn't an original reason for using the drugs and alcohol. It was just kind of a party mentality. And what's amazing is how you were living this double life of being this shining superstar. Was anyone aware of this? Was your family and friends concerned? Did anyone really see this double life that you'd been living?
I think that it was known by some people that didn't have the influence to me or my family that could do anything. I don't think that it was and I was doing so many things that were positive that they didn't want to take me off of the football team. They didn't want to take me off of, the wrestling team, and they wanted me to graduate and stuff. But I don't think that there was anyone that knew the severity of what was going on, because I think just as much as, kids need to be educated on drug prevention, teachers and adults and parents and people that have kids under their care need to understand what to do also.
Yeah. And be more aware and really talk. I'm now raising my 15-year-old grandson, and I have these talks all the time. I'm like, look, buddy, look, people are going to offer it. Don't even do it. Not even once. Don't even try it once. I know there's going to be curiosity. I know everybody's going to be hanging out. Thank goodness he's in a great community he likes to skate. He's a skateboarder. So he's in this really cool sort of hippie vibe of skateboarders. And I like that they're not really into any, they don't want to drink, and because physically they need to be healthy. So a group of friends is important too. The people the kids hang out with. What's interesting to me is, and my heart just goes out to you so much for that moment with your best friend that called, and the guilt that was instilled in that moment and that you carried with you. And it's interesting that you could do all of the drugs and alcohol while you were this athlete and this shining star. And then when this mental part of it came in, the real deep trauma. And as a life coach myself, and my psychology background and certifications and diplomas, it's funny how much once those psychology parts of it come into play, the mental part of it, then we really start taking this downhill slide a little bit
100%.
faster, right?
Yeah, 100%, because you take on an identity.
Yes.
An identity is the strongest thing that you can take on. And I took on the identity of someone who uses drugs to cope. I remember having that conscious shift. Like, I need to use drugs and I can't tell anybody the truth. That's what I was constantly telling myself. And if that's the case, I needed drugs to be able to, put on the face that I needed to put on for each community that I was in.
Yeah. And you literally took the words out of my mouth, because the identity part of it turned into a belief. And the belief is, I can't manage anything in my life without this thing. And whether it's overeating, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's smoking, nicotine, whatever, even positive stuff like running and, adrenaline, a lot. It just, we convince ourselves, I have to have this thing to be okay in life. And so that brings me to, first of all, I always know that there is a connection between my guests and I. And November 6th is my grandfather's birthday. And I absolutely, my grandfather was just my everything. And I just love and adore him and miss him. And he passed in 1991. But I looked at the date and I went, of course, that's why he's in front of me, along with your story and your mission to help people. So I love that you said people who want to stop, they don't have the resources. And we hear, oh, there's this recovery group, call 911 or call the mental health line now. Or how do you help people who are in this place where they don't know where to go and they don't know what to do for their very first step? What does your company do?
Yeah. So after I published my book on November 6, 2019, and it became a bestseller, it was selling really quickly. It was #1 on Amazon for like 4 months and outsold the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous for a whole month. When that happened, I started getting messages on my Facebook. And then I started actually getting emails from people who read my book and, either, just wanted to tell me how much it encouraged them. But then people started reaching out and saying, hey, I read your book and I'm struggling with this drug. I don't know what to do. So I start having conversations with everybody reaching out to me. And the way that's evolved is now my page, my Recovered on Purpose page on Facebook, is reaching a lot of people. And I still personally reply to every single message that comes into my Facebook page. And if someone's struggling, I've kind of, because I've done so many communication courses and things like that, I know that what you're not supposed to do is say, go to church, read the Bible, and go to a meeting every single day and do whatever they tell you. You can't do that. You have to ask each one of these people what they're currently dealing with and what their past is like. because you can cause more damage by telling every single person that there's a one size fits all thing. So then I start asking people about them, about where they're at, about their living situation, about the resources they have, about what they've tried in the past, and things like that. And then I, with wisdom, give them steps to take and tell them, hey, after you take that first step, message me back, to let them know that I'm here to support them through the journey. And I've used the platform on social media to reach people struggling with that message so that they reach out. And then now I coach other people in recovery to do the same thing. Because when the 12 steps were originally made, they were doing recovery by mail. They were writing letters to each other and sending them states away. And this person is like eagerly waiting for this letter in order to find recovery. We're not there anymore. We have a state of the internet now where there's podcasts reaching millions and millions of people. There's social media and videos and posts and things like that where we can reach people out there suffering in a totally different way. So my company trains people in recovery how to do that, how to use the digital age to get their message out and help addicts out there struggling. And currently right now, if you were to, in most cities in the United States, if you were to Google Medicaid treatment or Medicaid rehab, in many, many states in the United States, the entire front page is going to be taken by treatment centers that do not even accept Medicaid, because they spend so much money on their SEO and on their ads and everything like that. And 75% of Google users never make it to the second page of a search. So if someone doesn't have resources and they're going to Google to find a treatment center that, can help them, they're not finding it. So right now, what we're doing at Recovered on Purpose, we have a group of volunteers right now, and we're building the only online 100% fully comprehensive 50-state guide for all resources that are either free or accept Medicaid. So it's specifically for people out there suffering that don't have private insurance or financial resources. And then I happen to have a team around me that are really good at SEO, are really good at ads. And we're going to make sure that if somebody is searching for free treatment or Medicaid treatment, they're going to be connected with us and our team that will walk them through the process exactly like I do in my messenger. And we have to do this. We have to make it accessible for people out there suffering.
Wow. I'm blown away by that. I was in the medical field and did billing and insurance for many years, and the behavioral health side of it was lacking severely. B, I had a daughter who had an opioid addiction, and I had to try to get her into a facility, and she was under my insurance, but most of the people that were in there, her friends that were in there that she had met, didn't. And she would say to me, Mom, this person's not ready to leave yet, and they're kicking them out because they ran out of benefits or they don't have it was called Access in Arizona. And so what a treasure that is to give these resources, because a lot of times people want to recover, but the first thing that comes to their mind is the financial, the walls of, I don't even know how to pay for it. And let's be real, guys, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute. The medical care in this country is pathetic because it is about money. And it's not about people. And I love that you're changing that. And I think we all need to write our congressman and change that care should not be based on your ability to pay. And that's just especially behavioral health. That is something I'm definitely passionate about. I love that you say how much technology and social media are so great and we can use it. This is a tool for helping others, for getting help. I was married to a domestic violence alcoholic years ago, before social media, before any of these resources. And we went through the AA program and the Al-Anon program. And you're right, it was try to find a meeting somewhere in your city. It's once a week. And you don't really get to choose what kind of meeting you like or you don't. You just are like, we just got to go to a meeting. I remember going with my ex-husband. We were young at the time, in our 20s, and we'd go to one that had a bunch of old timers, and it just didn't cross over for him at all. The Al-Anon side was great, but you're right. I had no other support. He had no other support. What you're doing is a movement. And I think that's the beauty of being able to do podcasting is, everyone that's listening, listeners, I mean, how beautiful is this that you get to meet Adam this way and bring resources to, whether it's you needing recovery or your friends needing recovery. How beautiful that this movement and technology can be used for the greater good of all of us. And I'm really, I say this a lot in my podcast. I believe people who teach things are great. You've studied it and that's great. But to me, just like my coaching, I don't think we can be as effective unless we've lived it. And hearing your story and having you on, to me, that's the most important thing, because you were there. You were at that rock bottom. I remember in an AA meeting I had gone to, and people had said addiction and alcoholism, you picture it like an elevator and you decide what floor you're going to get off at, and hopefully you don't go to the basement, right?
Yeah. And the basement has a basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's that frustration. Well, I've tried recovery before. I've tried recovery 5 times. I always say, you know what? But there's a 6th time. I don't care if you've done it 99 times. There's a 100th time. You never stop trying and you never stop going. So tell me about your book. Tell me how your book is written. How has it impacted people? Does it have steps? Does it have tips? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So in 2019, I was under 2 years clean and sober, and I had a business that was, I had a team of 23 people. I was making more money than I had ever made before, and I actually made 6 figures in my addiction doing door-to-door sales. And I had this new apartment downtown Denver, this new motorcycle, new car, and all this stuff. And then one night I'm sitting there, and I actually have a wave of depression. And like, is this it? Like, oh, okay, I made it, and none of this is doing anything for me. And when I had this like thought that I hadn't had in a while, and it came up, and it was like suicide. It was like, if this is it, then I don't even want to be here. And as soon as I had that thought, I have a blocker to it. And I immediately was like, nope, not going there. And I went over to my bed, dropped on my knees, and I started praying to God. I was like, God, I'm sick of this. This is another to my knees moment that wasn't in my addiction. It's like, I'm sick of this. God, show me how to help millions of people, God. I know I'm here to do it. I want to help people. I love people. And I'm just like deeply going into it. And then I go to bed, wake up in the morning, say the exact same prayer. And then 10 minutes later, I'm eating breakfast and scrolling on Instagram, I think it was, and an ad pops up, and it says, there's a conference for how to bring God into your business in California. And I was like, well, if that's not an answer, then I don't know what is. So I bought a ticket right there. I had no idea what it was, no idea who was there, nothing. And I go out to Vacaville, California on my own. And the first night, again, there's 1,500 people there. I know nobody. And the first part of the conference, they had like a worship band playing. And I was up on the floor, and I like had my hands up, and I'm like listening to the worship song. And then I hear God's voice like in my heart. That's how I know. I just hear it in my heart. He said, your new company is called Recovered on Purpose. And I look up, I was like, that's good. And I pull out my phone right there, and I got on GoDaddy, and I bought the domain name, checked on Secretary of State. I was like, dang, that is mine. And then a couple days later, I was in the crowd, and a guy comes up on the stage and starts speaking about writing a book, and starts talking about how to self-publish and things like that. And I'm like rigorously taking notes and looking up and taking all these notes and getting excited. So it's like, I've always wanted to write a book. And I hear that voice again. If you publish your story for your 2 years clean and sober, you're going to inspire so many others to do the same. And I was like, my 2 years, that's in 5 weeks. But I know this voice, and I know that you don't want to miss the opportunity to follow this voice. So when I got home, I called my partners and my managers, and I said, hey guys, I'm going to be off for a few weeks. I'm working on something. And for the first 2 days, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to just sit down and write a book. right? Especially in 5 weeks. I couldn't just sit down and make it happen. So what I did was I got on my whiteboard and I started dumping out every experience I could possibly think of my entire life in 5 words or less, just like to get it all out of my head, right? And then I wrote down what I wanted the message to be of my story. And what I wanted it to be was the reality of the spiritual realm and how, God saved me from addiction. So then I take the stories, only the stories out of my life that pointed to that message. And then I put them over on another whiteboard, made a checklist, and then I just started writing them one after the other, one after the other. And that became the book, From Chains to Saved, One Man's Journey Through the Spiritual Realm of Addiction. It's a collection of 21 short stories that take you from, the day Columbine happened all the way, through to after, finding recovery. And what I didn't realize at the time was that those first 2 days of planning that book became the foundation of all the training we do at Recovered on Purpose. That whole thing that was just created in order so I could write my book quickly, I now train people on how to put their story into this blueprint of recovery to reach people out there suffering with a message that will actually move them to find recovery. We've published a bunch of books with this method. One of my students has her first professional keynote next month where she's teaching doctors and judges and lawyers and teachers how to look for symptoms and signs of childhood trauma, and then how to have the conversation with the kids that are going through it and prevent them from going down a dark road. And, we've done hundreds and hundreds of podcasts within Recovered on Purpose. And, we're getting the message out all because, I listen to that voice and I trust that if I do what I have to do, if I do my job, all the stuff that I'm not able to do is going to get done. I just have to do my part.
All of it. And my listeners know I've repeated this a million times. My vibe of my whole business was build it and they will come. I didn't worry about the how. I just worried about the why. And that's what you did. And you had this intuitive download and this, like, I know and you're going to laugh, but my first book I wrote in 8 weeks, and it was just this dump of all of my life. And I did it very similar to you, and all authors do things different. I'm a very creative mind, not very logistical. So I'm just kind of like, bleh. I say what I think. I don't have a filter. And I just wrote really what was in my heart. Same experience with what you did, where it was, I just started every now and then writing down something that was an example. Of course, mine's about the dogs and using them as an example of unconditional love, and dog spelled backwards is God. And they are the closest thing to the most innate, beautiful, pure thing on this earth, in my opinion. So that's what I did. Just, these chapter by chapter, just see something that the dogs did. So I love that you didn't overthink it. You really didn't overthink it. You just said, here's my experiences people need to know. And here's what happened from those experiences. And here's the message that I want out there. And I think people overthink. And I think anyone out there, listeners, if you have something on your heart that you want to do to help humankind, to help your fellow man, to really, in whatever aspect, you're the expert because of your life experiences. I really, you have the tools. It's all within you. Don't overthink it. Just do what Adam did, and you gotta go for it. I mean, I've always been one of these planners, sort of like, I have to do it right. It has to be perfect. And I've stopped that, especially at my age, 52. I don't care about perfection anymore. I care about people. I care about the world and having compassion and kindness. Did you also find, because I know this helped me, did you also find that you even found, by finding more purpose for you, it helped you heal by healing others? I think the helping heals us even more than just recovering and healing ourselves. What do you think?
100%. That's exactly what Recovered on Purpose was founded on, is that the members of Recovered on Purpose are living as recovered from drug addiction and alcoholism and on purpose to help others recover. And I get a bunch of backlash for using the word recovered because you never fully recover from addiction and alcoholism. Like, yes, you do. You 100% do. You don't get cured of the disease. Like, I can't smoke a little bit of crack ever again, because then I'll smoke a lot of crack. That's just how it works. But I have, 5.5 years ago, I couldn't go an hour without thinking about drugs and alcohol. I literally couldn't. I was consistently obsessing. I had to use. If I wasn't using, I was withdrawing. If I was using, I needed more, and I could never stay stopped. Now I wake up and I'm thinking about helping people. I'm thinking about building something amazing. I'm thinking about sharing a story. I'm thinking about this person that I'm coaching that's doing this tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to hear how it goes. And thinking about that constantly. I have recovered from that mental disease. I have recovered from it. I'm a completely different person. And now I believe that purpose and mission and passion and personal development, finding out who you truly are and what you want to do with this world and the time that you have in it, that is relapse prevention. Everybody's so focused on the clinical aspects of relapse prevention. And what the problem is that for centuries prior to 1934, when the founders of AA got together and formed something that started a movement that started helping millions of people, before then, the medical community was consistently trying to do new things to help alcoholics and to help addicts, and nothing worked. They literally they've tried all kinds of things. There was a period in American history where they castrated us. They castrated addicts. And if that's the case, for centuries, the medical community wasn't able to do it. The solution came from within the people suffering. Why are we all of a sudden going backwards? And now we're counting on treatment centers that are 100% monetized for you to come back as many times as possible. We're going to therapy as something that we are, and I'm all for therapy. But with therapy, you have to have a goal in mind that you're going for to accomplish. It can't be something where you just go in and talk about your woes every single week. Who wants to live like that? And if that's what it is, if you're constantly going to be worried about triggers, you're constantly thinking about what you can't do with your life, you're bound to relapse. And that's why the relapse rates are 91% for people leaving long-term treatment in the first year. And it's because they're being indoctrinated with messaging that doesn't work. And it's messaging that's from people that have never suffered from the disease of alcoholism or drug addiction. We have to go back to the founding message, which was recover, go help others recover, and stay recovered. That's what it is.
Oh, hallelujah. All of it. We're so completely in synchronized thinking on this, because when it comes to mental health, I agree. I'm not, I think anybody who needs help, go to therapy, go to counseling, whatever. But the reason why I went into life coaching is so I didn't have to do the same model that therapists have been doing for years, which is sit on the couch. Let's talk about how shitty your childhood was. Let's talk about all your problems every single time you come in here. And what are we doing? We're just reinstilling the same stuff week after week. And yes. I 100% agree with you. And the reason life coaching works and your program works is we're giving you hope for the future. We're saying stop being problem focused and start being solution minded.
Yes.
And have hope for the next thing that you want to do. And I think that's exactly it, which is different now. Yes. For me, when people come to coaching, it's let's focus on what you're doing great. Let's not focus on your problem and what you keep doing wrong. It's like basic human understanding, right? If you come, Adam, and you want to come for coaching, and you're like, oh man, Maureen, I was addicted, and I don't really feel any motivation, and I blah blah. And I go, yeah, that really sucks. And you have an addictive personality. You're probably never going to get rid of that. And, man, you've got a lot of problems. I'm just reinstilling what you already believe about yourself. The whole point is let's stop believing those false beliefs and those limiting beliefs. And I'm going to go, yeah, but what's amazing about you? Tell me the good things about you. Tell me the things you've accomplished. We forget to look at what we've done right. Why do we always look at what we've done wrong? Human nature, society, families, people that are constantly pointing out what's wrong with you, and that inner strength we have within us. And I think when it comes to addictions, because of my own personal experience, is that validation has to come from inside. And the constant feeling of being judged by the world and those around us, and the shame, just the hidden shame of not wanting people to know, and the shame of, I can't beat this thing. I don't have enough self-control to stop doing this. That's where the change comes. Is we gotta really hone in on what you can do well, and what gift do you have you can give to others that's going to help them recover. You don't even know the gifts you have that someone can sit with you and go, damn, no one's ever said it that way. And you probably find that a lot with your coaches and your team. They'll say something and it's just normal for them to tell their story, but someone needed to hear that.
Exactly. And that's the whole message of Recovered on Purpose, is that each and every person, and I tell this to everybody, you don't just have to be an addict, you don't have to be an alcoholic, but I'm really, really clear with the recovery community. Anybody that has been to one of those knee events, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, right? Where you're falling to your knees and you're at this breaking point, you have to make a change because your life is going a really bad way right now. When you make it through that, there is somebody else out there that is counting on you sharing your story, you sharing your message, that will not make it through that if you don't. And that's my belief. There's so many people on the planet right now. And when we get caught up in our small community, we think that, we don't have the power to do this, we don't have the power to do that. And what people don't realize is that a video, made correctly with your story and made with a decent camera can reach people out there that you may never meet. You may never know it impacted them. But the digital age now reaches people that need the message. And I believe with everything in me, every single person that has recovered from alcoholism or drug addiction, there is somebody right now suffering that will never recover if you don't get out and share your message, if you don't get out and start acting in a purposeful way to help others. I've experienced it myself. People that, were trying forever and ever and ever and ever and ever to get clean. And then for some reason, the message that I said, they were like, dude, what do I do? It just opened them up to hearing it. And then they just follow some simple stuff that anybody else is going to tell them to do anyway, and then it works because they heard the message correctly. And the reason why I believe in that so much is because I was him. I was that person that couldn't get clean over and over and over and over. And this time I was listening to YouTube videos of speaker tapes every night, even when I was using drugs, and I was just trying to find the message that would help. And then one night I heard this man, Chris R., speak and share his story. And when he shared his story about where he came from and how the disease actually affected him internally and how it affected him in his life and this kind of stuff, I was like, dang, this guy sounds a lot like me. This is how I feel. And then he starts talking about what he did and the process he did to find recovery from that. I was like, really? It's that simple? I've heard it is, but it really is that simple? You suffered like me. But then at the end of his speaking, he was talking about the beautiful life in recovery. He was talking about all the people he was able to help. He was talking about the things that he was able to get in his first, couple years of recovery, about, he got to marry someone that had a kid and he got to adopt the kid, and all of these feelings he was having in his recovery. Then I was like, and I'm getting chills right now because I remember it. And I was actually on the phone with him right before this podcast. And the thing is that bond happened in that moment, listening to his story, where I was like, I can do it. I can do it. if I do that? And it was like 12:47 p.m. I went up to the kitchen table of this sober living house that I was staying at, and I Googled this man, and he had his home phone number somewhere that I found on Google. I called him, I left a voicemail, and the next day he called me back, and I was jumping for joy, and we've been friends ever since. And I wouldn't have found recovery if I didn't, I can't necessarily say for sure I wouldn't have found recovery because I was looking hard, but I attribute my recovery to hearing his story and following what he said to do.
Yes. So powerful. Gosh, Adam, that's so powerful. And, I always think, we're out here in the world and everybody thinks, okay, so for instance, I'm a certified life coach and there's so many life coaches. And yet I sit in my mindset and I go, I don't care how many life coaches there isn't a life coach like me with my experiences. And there is someone out there that needs to hear my specific story. And so I love that you say that, because you're absolutely right. There's someone that will resonate. And that's why that's why I started the podcast was, I never knew, because so many of us are out there like, I never knew anybody else had gone through the same things that I did. I never knew anybody could come out of some of these tragedies and these really heartbreaking things. It was so important to start the podcast for that reason right there. We're ripples. I'm not here to do it all. You're not here to do it all. But hearing us, someone resonates, and then they tell someone, and so on and so forth. And that's how we change this whole life, this whole view, and this whole vibration of where we are. And I think it's beautiful that we get to talk about it now, and we get to talk about it in a big way, bigger than we ever had throughout history. And I'm just so grateful for my fellow helpers out there and light workers. And we all have a different thing that we're helping with, and everyone has it in them to help. And I think by helping, it gives us a more fulfilling life, because you could recover and be by yourself. But like you said, you had everything and it wasn't enough. It wasn't until you contributed to your fellow man, because we weren't meant to live as hermits in a cave by ourselves with no human interaction. We're here for connection. And so it's important to do that work and to find that purpose. And I'm so grateful for the work that you are doing. You're so fantastic and fabulous. And you can hit me up after this and I'll come do some speaking with your company because I coach on confidence and self-confidence and using the dogs. It's learning how to be the best friend that your dog already knows you are. My problem was I had no self-esteem, and there was codependent behavior. So I made sure I did everything for everybody else. And so having that confidence and that self-esteem, I think, is first and foremost in anything we want to do. So whether it's recovery or whether it's business or it's love, relationship, whatever it is, you got to love and believe in yourself first before anything else can happen positive in your life, right?
I hear that. And I still struggle with belief in myself, but the amazing thing that I've found is I do not struggle with my belief in God. I have an unshakable faith in the God that I serve, and I know what he has me here to do. And it boils down to love him, love people. And everything that I do every single day is to fulfill on that. Every moment that I'm awake, I'm doing something that makes me feel like I am serving my purpose. And my purpose is to love people. And if that's the case, then everything that I'm doing, when I'm writing an article, I'm writing it in a way, okay, if someone was to read this, what are they going to get? How are they going to get love from this? And when I'm walking by somebody on the street and, maybe they're having a bad day and they, give me a glare or they say something or something like that, I'm someone that wants to always show up and just love. When I get a comment on my Facebook about, hating on me for the most random things, when you have a certain amount of reach, like you get hated on for the randomest things. And I'm like, but what I made a promise to myself with this company that I will always receive and respond with love. And it's not a sarcastic love like a lot of people do.
Right.
Like where I've gotten now with the amount of conversations that I've had with people, the amount of people suffering that I've spoken to and really gotten their suffering, I know people out there, they just need love. And I would much rather be a vessel to love somebody than to be somebody that needs to be right, or somebody that needs to win an argument. And with the amount of polarization going on, especially in the United States, and battling that's going on over things that really we can't even change. Like a lot of people are battling over things with their family, even about things that they can't even change and will never change. And if that's the case, why would we not come together on all the things we do agree on, all the things we can change? Like I was having a conversation with one of my coaches today after having a conversation with a foundation about a certain topic that I had decided that I am keeping out of this foundation, out of Recovered on Purpose. Because if I have any kind of stance in it, then it makes it so that I'm cutting off this group over here or this group over here. In reality, by cutting that off, I leave both of them in. I just don't talk about that. I have no opinion. There's nothing that does for our movement. So we're focused here. And that makes it so that everybody's included, and it makes it so I can love more people. Like I'm a faithful Christian man. I also coach people in the LGBTQI plus community. I coach people that, are not Christians. We'll just say that. And the thing is I believe by doing this, I'm actually expressing God's love, showing what's possible in a community. And who knows, like if you're around somebody who knows God like I do enough, you're going to get introduced to him. I don't even have to say anything. He's just going to come into your life.
I think really the bottom line is it's about acceptance. It's just accepting one another. That's the whole point. I mean, no matter what religion anybody believes or follows or faith or spiritualism, it's about acceptance of one another. And when you just look at your fellow humans with different eyes, and those eyes have to be, I wonder where they're suffering. I wonder where their pain is.
Exactly.
That's when you come at people with love, rather than you see someone who's defensive and yelling and, the new word they're using, the Karens out there. They're coming from a place of something. If you can look deeper beyond the behavior and just say, wow, something happened, they've got some insecurities and they're fighting for that validation or that identity. It's just, look at people with different eyes. I say I don't see people, I see souls. And so I have a deeper understanding when someone's in front of me, that I can look at them from a soul place where I can see more pain and have more compassion and find that place where we have something in common that I can connect with you. So you feel I get you and I care about you. So I loved this whole thing. Oh my gosh, I could talk to you for hours. So because our conversations are always a little bit heavy on my podcast, but they end up so joyful, I have a fun little thing that I do. And it's called, it's a little segment called Take My Money. And what this is, Adam, is tell me something you've either seen for sale or you've bought yourself that's a little weird and wacky. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples because I always put people on the spot, and I'm going to give you a minute to think. Today, I found bacon flavored toothpaste, which is really gross to me. I love bacon and I love to brush my teeth, but I don't want them combined. This one was kind of interesting. I found this on eBay for $65. And it was titled Authentic Haunted Mourning Brooch from the 1920s. And so, of course, I had to go to the description and say, well, how the heck do you know this is haunted? And supposedly this is worn at a gangster's funeral, and it was found in a funeral parlor that was over 100 years old. So that was kind of intriguing. I know.
Wow.
I know. I thought that was fascinating. So, okay, there we go. I gave you whack and I gave you intriguing. What you got for me?
Putting me on the spot. I usually have a pretty defined purpose with stuff that I get. I think that, let me look. Have you seen one of these?
I have not. What is that?
It's called a So Right.
Okay.
And it's a friend of mine actually created it, and Joe Rogan ended up finding it and then talked about it on his podcast for like months straight because it helps people so much, and then it blew up. But basically this thing, like you lay on it and it gets into parts of your muscle that nothing else can, that releases everything from your hips to your back. I have a bunch of other ones that are made for your neck, for your legs, for your lower back and things. And it gets to the muscles in a way that actually releases things. And like, I remember one of the first times that I used it over at his place, I did it just on my right side because I wanted to see. And I stood up and started walking. And I was like, oh my gosh, my right side is completely different than my left side right now. Like, I felt a total difference, and my left side was still like a little, like, it was just different. It was stiff.
Oh,
And
wow.
from one use.
I'm in. So how do you lay on that? Because I have like lower back and SI joint dysfunction. So how do you use it?
So, and you can find them on Facebook and stuff and watch their videos. But
nice.
You set it on the ground,
Uh-huh.
and then this part right here goes right here. You'll feel it, and then you put all of your body weight on it, and you can kind of shift around so that you feel, it getting to the psoas muscle, and then you just take breaths. But then you can also, I mean, you do it on both sides, but then you can also, lift your hips up and put it right here and get this whole area here. You can get your butt, you can put it on your, and then there's ones that are made for your neck and your shoulders and back and stuff.
Wow, that's fantastic. And it's called So Right. How does it spelled?
PSO-RITE.
PSO-RITE. And awesome. Look at you promoting your friend's product. Speaking of promoting, it's our time to promote you. Give us some websites and some social media and where your book is at. It's your shot to just promote away here.
Cool. Yeah, I love to connect with people, and especially if you are suffering an addiction, I would love to hear from you. You can message me on Recovered on Purpose Facebook page. So just search Recovered on Purpose. You can also, if you're struggling, you can also email us at resources@recoveredonpurpose.org. And then if you want my book, I actually have a digital and audio copy of it totally free for you on recoveredonpurpose.org.
Love that. Love that. That's charitable of you, and that just shows that you're in it for the purpose and not for the money. And I really love that, because when we're doing something good, it's all about the good. So I love that. So Facebook, Recovered on Purpose, guys, go find him, and you can always reach out and message him on there. And then resources at recoveredonpurpose.org is where you can email, you can get the book, and you can also contact him to see if you can do some recovery work with him as well. I just think you're such a joy, and I so appreciate you being on today. I love like-minded people and people who are doing good in the world, and I thank you so much for being my guest today, Adam. You're such a joy.
Yeah, Maureen, thanks so much for having me. This is fun.
And he's quite handsome, listeners. I'm just saying. I don't know if I'm going to have the video, but he is quite handsome. So I would just go to the site just to see how handsome he is. And listeners, off to my little housekeeping stuff. You know where to find me for your dating and relationship coaching, your self-esteem, self-confidence coaching, and general changes in your life for life coaching. I'm at lifecoachmaureen.com. And my books are on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Outskirts Press. My dog is more enlightened than I am, and my dog is my relationship coach. And don't forget our doggy boutique at mydogiseverything.net. Healthy, holistic treats and products for our precious little furry babies. Love you all for listening. Keep those 5-star reviews coming. I so appreciate you guys for that. And reach out to me if you need anything. If you need to get a hold of Adam for anything, you can always come through me as well. Give us your comments, give us your opinions. Be nice, be kind, but don't come for me, but be cool. No, I really do. I love your feedback that you guys have given me, and I'm always looking for guests, so you're welcome to reach out for that as well. So I'm going to end today's episode. Please take care of yourself, take care of others, and most importantly, take care of those furry babies. Until next week, my friends, I love you all. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to the I Never Knew podcast. If you found today's episode inspiring and educational, please be sure to follow, subscribe, and spread the word. The more people that join the Inc. community, the more it can develop and influence others as we work together for a healthier and brighter future. Until next time.